Meeting of the Police Services Board of Norfolk County on this day, May the 19th, 2021. I'll call the meeting to order now that it is 9 o'clock in the a.m. I ask if there are any declarations from members of the PSB for pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we will continue on. There are no ceremonial activities scheduled for this morning. There are no presentations or deputations scheduled. I will ask that the meetings minutes that were sent out to all of the members of the Police Services Board and to the Ontario Provincial Police that if there are any errors, corrections, or omissions, please bring them forward now. If not, we'll accept them as being adopted. Minutes are adopted. Business arising from the minutes. Any members? Member Santos.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Business arising from the minutes on page 2, section 3, subsection B. It references discussion topics between the deputation staff and the board, including the scope with regards to cannabis. I am just wondering if anything has come out of the 5-point plan with Norfolk County. And I believe on May the 11th of 2021, something has arisen. So if we can get an answer to that, Mayor Chop or Councillor Huffman, I believe.
Councillor Huffman, I see your hand.
Thank you, Chair Trevally. Through you to Mr. Santos, Norfolk County staff needed an extra cycle to prepare that report, so it will be presented at the June CIC meeting for the 5-point plan.
Thank you very much. Anything further?
Mr. Chair, to Councillor Huffman, is that committee and council?
Yes, that's committee and council.
Thank you.
Anything further from business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we go to item 7, which is correspondence. We have 5 items that were distributed. Are there any questions or comments on any of the items there? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion that the correspondence be received as information. Moved by Member Santos, seconded by Councillor Huffman. Thank you very much. And all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. The March statistics, should be April statistics actually, were sent out, received and sent out by email. Are there any observations or questions about the OPP report that was sent out? Actually, we should have March and April both. Member Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had 3 questions to our chief. So if I could start out, Mr. Chair, to our chief. With regards to traffic-related charges, there's not a page number, but I'm just looking here, and I'm seeing speeding in 2021. We've basically have a 152% increase. So last year was 93 charges, and this year we have 235. Is this, of course, not only Norfolk County, but the reasoning? Oh, sorry. I have here Police Services Report, Norfolk County, March 2021. Speeding, traffic-related charges. It's dated March the 18th, 2021. The report was generated. Sorry, I don't have a page number. May I stand, Mr. Chair, and just give him a copy?
My apologies to the board on that. I didn't bring the March stats with me. I submitted them prior to, but my apologies for not bringing them. Yeah, one of the biggest factors there has been COVID-19, and certainly from 2020 now we have our officers certainly a year later back trying to get to a relatively normal level of enforcement and public engagement, certainly using all PPE. So we have seen an increase in our traffic enforcement because of that.
Mr. Chair, to our chief, is there like a specific area that's, I know that there was reference to Highway 24, Brantford Road. Are these numbers coming specifically from that area, or is this pretty well the whole of Norfolk?
That would be the whole of Norfolk, and I know Staff Fashion can speak to it when we report on the April stats. That we through our analytics, we tend to focus on the areas that require, that we see the most collisions in, most public complaints and those things, and that on top of community-driven focused patrol efforts as one-offs. So that's where we tend to focus our time so that we're using our proper dedicated resources that are available.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the chief. So my records show April of 2021, but the following pages go into March. So I think that section just refers to March from what I have in front of me, correct?
Sorry, the one that you just showed me is March.
Correct.
The
So
one
do
I
you have
in front of me-
April's?
Yes, that was sent out.
Because I don't have April's.
Yes, because of the delay in our stats and the timing of the meeting, so that was sent out just this week.
Okay.
Historically, our meeting would take place a week from now, if not 2 weeks from now.
Yes.
And so the timing of sending the stats out is a bit delayed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following question to our chief is robberies. I noticed in the month of April of 2021, we go from last year having 1 robbery to 4 robberies, and I'm a numbers guy, so I see a 300% increase. Now, when we're talking robberies, what type of robberies are we referring to here, Mr. Chief?
Many of our robberies are robberies against a person. So where another member of the public steals someone's, say, purse or something of that nature. Most of our robberies, although we do get them, aren't armed robberies at convenience stores and those things. We do get them from time to time, or home invasions, but most are robberies where someone's assaulted somebody and stolen an item from them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last question, and I usually ask this question each and every meeting, impaired driving. The numbers continue to go up in our area, and I'm just referring, Mr. Chair, and to the board, to our chief, is the police board analytical report of April of 2021. It seems to me that we're catching a lot of impaired drivers through the RIDE program. Is that correct?
I would say it's both. The stats reflect that our rides are fairly consistent, but yes, RIDE is an effective tool in detecting impaired drivers, not only by alcohol but by drug, and we're seeing, obviously, through our training now that the officers have, impairment by drug is coming to the forefront as well, but also through motor vehicle stops, just for other related offenses like speeding or seatbelts or what have you.
Sure. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Member Santos. Anything further from the OPP statistics? Thank you. And I think, is it this week or the next 2 weeks that the Big Four are on the agenda for enforcement?
That's correct. We have our Victoria Day weekend provincial traffic campaign, and our officers will be out conducting proactive enforcement throughout the county.
Thank you very much. That's basically the end of the open session, unless any member wishes to bring something forward at this time before we go into closed meeting. Councillor Huffman?
Thank you, Chair Trevally. Just to kind of tag on to those statistics in regards to the speeding, I'm a little bit confused as to what the relationship is in terms of COVID. Could you explain that to me, please?
Yes, I can. One of the issues in 2020 that we had is our officers, like every other member of the public or emergency services, this was all new to them as well. Certainly, you know, when we've learned so much about COVID, and there's still so much to learn. And as we learn to the proper PPE to wear, protective equipment to wear, certainly the members of the public were really apprehensive when we were stopped and engaged the police. The numbers of cars on the road initially dropped dramatically, and certainly, you know, officers and myself, and I think organizationally, we looked at, there's a lot going on, you know, for members of the public. A certain amount of discretion was used to get people through that very difficult time and life-changing event. So with the drop in traffic flow, certainly, you know, people not wanting to get engaged, our officers trying to get comfortable realistically doing business in a whole different way, we saw the decrease in those traffic enforcement stats. Charges were laid when they were necessary, but certainly there was some discretion used in that capacity, keeping in mind, you know, the impact that was having on members of the public that were, you know, had their lives, all of us, including our officers, had their lives turned upside down, and in fact, we're dealing with, you know, infections or exposures as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that explanation. It's just I get bombarded by the public on a regular basis in terms of the residential speed that's happening, and just wondering if that's part of the tactic going forward in terms of dealing with this. And we deal with this in council on a regular basis, and it's something that's been, you know, going on since the beginning of this term for council. The increase in speed in residential areas and in the hamlets and things like that, and just wondering if there's you know, some kind of blitz or something that's in place, or what the strategy is going forward to deal with this ongoing issue for our citizens.
Well, we are back on track. We've seen a considerable increase in our charges. Our officers are, again, more comfortable as we start to come out of COVID, I hope. We've had the deployment of our mobile traffic sign throughout, you know, in Simcoe alone on Norfolk Street North and South. We've had it in Teeterville as recently as last week, and we're moving, and I think it's in Nixon now. So John continues to work with the Norfolk County Traffic Committee to identify these areas. But, you know, you still have to remember is that our communities are growing, and when they grow, you know, there's more traffic flow. And we have to also discern through our traffic studies perception versus reality. Just because you hear a lot of vehicles doesn't mean they're always speeding. So there's a lot of challenges when it comes to that. Certainly a lot of people that may leave the city and retire to Norfolk County envision a small, quiet place to live. But the more people that move here, there's more traffic flow. It is a tourist destination, so we'll see increased traffic flow in the summer. These are all, you know, we see changing traffic flow patterns brought on by GPS technology, where, you know, people used to just take Highway 3 and 24 to get here, and now they're taking county roads in different areas because GPS is directing them in that direction. So there's a lot of competing factors in this, and we try to allocate our resources accordingly where we identify problems and have that community input. It's important for us to know where the concerns are, so we can try and address them, and we do so in conjunction with the county roads department as well. And John's very active in that.
Is that sufficient, Councillor Huffman?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And George, did I see your hand as well for observations or comments?
I have a comment, and this has nothing to do with the speeding, but the issue of unpaid traffic fines. And I know the Police Services Board doesn't deal with that, but the question of the assurance that these laws are effective and that council's looking after these fines getting paid. That's my question, and that might be posed, Mr. Chair, at another meeting to the councillor and to Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, and I see the mayor's hand, but before I go to her, I just want to say that you're absolutely right. That is not a jurisdictional issue for the Police Services Board. It is something that both Norfolk County and the province have to deal with, and I'll leave that to the mayor to further explain. Go ahead.
Yes, George. So we have, I believe there was even, I think it was put out to an RFP some time ago, a long time ago. In fact, it was a report that came to council, and obviously we use a collection agency and so on to be able to collect on any accounts that haven't been paid. And like the chair said, that's something within the ambit of council. But I can certainly go back and try to dig out that report for you.
Mr. Chair, to the Mayor, thank you very much, Your Worship.
Anything further from the members of the Police Services Board? I have a couple of items I just want to raise before, but I want to give the members the opportunity to raise their issues first. Okay, seeing none, certainly I asked our admin support to circulate to the members a most recent report to council on PD 13, and it was quite informative for myself, for sure, to know that our police service has, I won't say a drop-dead date, but certainly a timeline within which they must organize any kind of extra resource and internal resource to accommodate such an event. So I would just, I'll continue to prod our admin support to provide any reports to council to the members of the PSB on that issue. But I do want to thank Staff Sergeant Fashing and Christina Klingbeil and yourself, Inspector, for the input and activities on that agenda item. So thank you very much. And I guess that leads into, excuse me, the issues around parades and other events that may or may not be taking place. And historically, that kicks off around July the 1st with Port Dover Canada Day Parade. So again, I wish to have the Police Services Board informed, Inspector, of any activity that you're called upon to perform or a resource you're expected to provide in terms of those things.
Yes, just in response to that, Mr. Chair, I had reached out to Norfolk County and please correct me if I'm wrong, to the councillors in your worship, but at this time the issuance of permits in relation, it's not really mine to speak to, but I will. The issuance of permits for parades and special events is geared certainly towards what level or how that may look in relation to COVID in the future, and certainly we'll continue to work with the municipality as the direction unfolds through county council, county staff, and everything else.
Thank you very much. The next item was we did receive correspondence from a member of council relative to lakefront cottage occupancy, and the fact that given the pandemic situation, that a lot of those cottages remain empty, and the request to, if possible, increase surveillance in that lakefront area. You want to bring me up to date on that, Inspector?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Staff Fashing, as the operations manager, back in July of 2020, implemented a focused patrol. It's something that actually goes back to when I was here as an operations manager for our seasonal residents, is that historically we saw crimes committed during the off-season to their cottage, and so at this time it remains ongoing. The current results, 19 officers have dedicated over 1,033.75 hours to this patrol. And at this time, certainly we haven't There's actually two been going on, and no, sorry, I'm sorry, I'll tell that one there. I'm having an off day here. I don't know what's going on, the heat, I guess. That was foot patrol to downtown Simcoe, and certainly 21 officers have dedicated over 220 hours of patrol to cottage patrol, and there have been no reported events to cottages, trailers, or marinas. So of significant nature. I'm sure there's been a couple in there, but nothing of note.
Thank you very much. And the last item I wanted to raise, and Councillor Huffman will be aware of this, and this is the 6 weeks from now, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan by provincial legislation must be inoperative on July the 1st. So I want to signal to the mayor and the councillor that the Police Services Board would like very much to play a role in the development of that plan, not just the OPP, but the Police Services Board, and have a representative at least monitoring or sitting in on any virtual meetings that may take place or questionnaires that may be sent out or that type of thing. The reason for that is simply that we did develop a strategic plan last year, and the strategic plan then flows down to the tactical level for an operations plan, and we need to know what the impact might be coming out of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan that may affect the strategic approach to policing in Norfolk County. So I'm not asking you to comment or do anything other than to take that on board and just keep us informed as progress, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Anything else from members of the Police Services Board for the benefit of the public that might be watching? Inspector.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just a few more updates, I think, of note, just given the interruptions to our regular meetings because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I know there's been considerable press release, nationally in regards to no more lockdowns and various things. We've had two related protests in Simcoe. As a result of that, I won't get to the minutiae of it, but numerous charges were laid in relation to event organizers, as it was reported in the media. We've had a few local businesses and individuals charged in relation to the EMCP, and we also provided assistance to another no more lockdown protest that overlapped from Norfolk County into Oxford. To date, we've had approximately 36 EMCP investigations, calls for service since the start of the year. In addition to those pressures that we've seen, which obviously impacts our proactive enforcement, we've had two criminal investigation branch investigations that have taken place. One was a homicide in Delhi. The other was a death investigation that's ongoing. And certainly we've continued and will be ramping up our plans in relation to PD 13. And just on a staffing point, I believe, John, it's 5 recruits we have coming in the next month, right? So with 5 recruits comes 5 coach officers. So certainly with that training, you do see a downward grade for a brief moment in time in as far as proactive efforts while coaches coach and recruits learn, and hopefully then everything gets back to normal. So that's just a quick, real update, I think, for the board in relation to some other matters that have been ongoing and pressures for us.
Thank you, Inspector. I do appreciate our infrequent but informative meetings that we host in my garage or other places. So keeping me informed, in which then I keep the board informed of what's happening, and that's certainly a recognition of the fact that the OPP don't use Teams and other things like that regularly for virtual meetings. So socially distanced, pickup truck distance away from each other, and we keep in touch. Anything further from the members of the board? Okay, at this point, we will be going into closed session, so I'll give Jacob, our admin support, a heads up that pursuant to Section 35A and B of the Police Services Act, RSO 1990, CP 15 as amended, subject matter involving public security may be disclosed, and having regard to the circumstances, the desirability of avoiding the disclosure in the public interest outweighs the desirability of adhering to the principle that proceedings be open to the public. I'll need a motion to go into closed session. A mover, please. Member Santos, seconder. Member Huffman. All in favor? Thank you, and we will wait for the signal from Jacob that we are in closed session. We do have members of the OPP sitting and waiting for us to do that. Staff Sergeant Walsh, Detective Sergeant Jeff Brazo, and Acting Inspector Lee Fulford, I understand, but I'll let them introduce themselves once we get that signal from Jacob that we are in closed session. Being that there's no other business, we close the meeting of the Police Services Board in Norfolk County, May the 19th, 2001. I see Member Santos, Member Van Houten. Did you want to say something, Willie, or are you just going to second that motion?
Just second the motion, yeah.
Thank you very much, and Jacob will make note of the mover and the seconder, and all in favor of that? Show of hands, please. And we are done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you, everyone. See ya.
Thank you.